September 28th, I believe it was, we drafted a letter to the community explaining that that we are looking at discontinuing some post offices, and we're doing a study with several offices, and that Jansen was included in that list of possible discontinuance post offices. We kind of explained in that letter a little bit why we're looking at this, what some of the options are, some of the information about Jansen. And then we also explained we'd be here this evening to take your comments and questions. And really our purpose tonight is twofold. One is to answer any questions that you have about the process, what happens if we were to decide to close the Jansen post office. And the other part of that is for you to give us your input that we can include in the study that we're conducting. Now let me stress to you that we're in the study phase. No decision's been made as to what the final outcome will be with the study. We go into it with an open mind. The study, I believe, concludes on December 1st. It's a 60-day period in which we're going to gather the input from the community, take your comments that you're going to share with us in your questionnaires and your comment forms. With the letter, there was also a questionnaire, a 2-page front and back questionnaire. If you did not receive one of those, I did bring some extras with us tonight. If you'd like to fill one of those out, you may do that. And as with your option or comment forms, if you don't get those completed tonight, that's fine. You can drop those off to Deb. Where'd Deb go? There she is. You can drop this off at the post office here, and Deb can get those, and she can forward them on to us, and we'll send them up to Omaha for the coordinator to put it again in the official record.
Todd, is there a deadline then, a certain date?
Well, the material said October 19th, but really we can take those, we cannot take those up really up till even close to the 1st of December. We do have to, all the documents are scanned, they're placed in the official records, so we do need to get them a little bit before the study ends. We do want to have them so we can review those before a decision's made. So I would say definitely by the middle of November, no later than the 1st of December. If you can get those into us, we'll get those included in the official record. Let me talk to you just briefly about if a decision's made to close the Jansen post office, how that would affect you. If we were to close the office, all the box customers right now, how many of you are P.O. box customers here in Jansen? Would you raise your hands for us? Wow, good number of you, okay. If we were to close the Jansen post office, all the current box holders would be converted over to rural delivery. And when we say rural delivery, that would be one of two options. We would either cluster the boxes on the streets and deliver onto the streets, have a rural carrier actually go up and down the streets and deliver to rural boxes. Or we may look at what we call cluster box units. Maybe you've seen these in some of the towns in Fairbury and such, where they're, and I'll pass this around, but it's a cluster box with several different lock doors on it. In this particular case, I think that's a 16-door unit, where a customer will get their own individual key with a separate lock. The carrier would come put the mail in the cluster box unit. They service it with a special master key. And then you would go and use your individual key to open that door and take your mail out. There's 2 parcel lockers in that unit. The larger parcel locker would accommodate a package about this size. And there's a unique key that's used for that. We leave in your box. And then the carrier has a special key that they use. Once you put that key in to get the locker door open, it stays in the lock. And the carrier has a special key they use to take that key back out. If the locker were full, or if we do the conversion over to just rural type delivery, if you were to have a package and countable item, a postage due item, the carrier would actually make an attempt at your residence with that item and go ahead and try to attempt to deliver that there at your address. And if you weren't home, they would leave a notice like you see probably today in your post office boxes. If we have an item that's too large for the box or you need a sign for it, they leave a notice like this. So that's one of the options that we would go to. In the letter I mentioned that Fairbury, you could have a P.O. box in Fairbury. If you were to do that, you'd have to rent a P.O. box in Fairbury. It wouldn't be free like it is now. And then the other option is the village post office. And what those are is that there's a business in town that would be interested. They would negotiate a contract with the Postal Service And our particular gentleman that negotiates the contracts in Denver at the area office, they would negotiate a contract with the business, and essentially what the business would do would sell a book of forever stamps, and they would provide some priority mail shipping product. They want deliver the mail, they want accept packages, they would just sell postage and provide some shipping materials. They may have a space available that we could go ahead and make delivery there, but the delivery would be made by rural carrier. I'll be honest with you, if a business is looking at it, the benefit to them is they'd have increased customer traffic, but they're not going to make money from the Postal Service on a contract or a village post office. The contracts generally range somewhere between 8 to 10% of our walk-in revenue, and I think last year your walk-in revenue was about $19,000. So if you do the math on that, you're talking maybe $1,900 a year to have a village post office in your business. If anybody's interested in that, I did bring some material on the village post office. I'd be willing to leave that information. If anybody that's interested in that, just let me know, and we'll provide that to you. So that would be your options: rural delivery, village post office, or you could rent a P.O. box at Fairbury, for that matter, any post office. With that, I think it usually works best just to open up to questions and comments. Howard and I will be taking notes. Our notes will become part of the official record too. If the post office does decide to close the Jansen post office, all this information is gathered together, it's put in an official record document, which then would be made available to the public. We'd have a copy of that document here in Jansen for review, and we'd have a copy in Fairbury that the public could actually look at and review if they so chose. The documents, generally when they're done, are about 2 inches thick. So they're pretty thick, a lot of information in them, but they are made available if we decide to go forward with the decision to close. So with that, I think we'll just open up to questions and comments. I'm going to try and take notes here, so just raise your hand, and if you can speak up so everybody can hear you, that'd be great. Okay.
Well, you say if you want to mail a letter and it's heavier than a 44 center, who's going to weigh it for you?
Okay, good question. It comes up often. If you have a package or a letter and you're not sure of the weight, you can do one of two things. You can go to a local post office, have them weigh it, or you can leave money with for the rural carrier to take back with them, and if it needs additional postage, they can put it on there and then bring change back the next day for you. One of two options.
But how can you trust that somebody else don't get that out of the box besides you?
Well, you know, that's always a possibility. You know, we have, Howard and I come from Lincoln. Lincoln has about 225,000 residents. Every day, rural customers will leave postage in a mailbox, and we pick it up, we transact business, and we don't really have a lot of problems with it. It's a possibility. I mean, we'll be honest with you, it could happen, but it's remarkable. We do that every day, all across the country, and we really have pretty good success with it. Yes, ma'am.
With rural packaging, if you're not home and you receive a notice, do they try to deliver again, or do you have to go to Fairbury and pick it up? You
can do a couple things. On the notice, you can mark on there that you'd like to have it redelivered. You can also say that you'd like to have it left, or you'd like to have it delivered to a different location. You can call the Fairbury post office, and say, hey, can you just send that back out tomorrow? I'll be home tomorrow. You can do one of either leave the notice. If you leave a notice, obviously it's going to take one more day. But you can call the Fairbury post office and say, hey, the carrier is here today. I missed them. Could you have them bring that package back out tomorrow? I'll be home. And they'll retake it for you. Or 2 days or 3 days, whatever it may be.
Well, yeah, like in a case with 3 days, if it's medication that comes through the mail for handicapped people and stuff.
Yeah. Sure.
It's like sometimes you can't wait.
Sure. If you call Fairbury, if we were to close, Fairbury would be your administrative office, meaning that's where your carrier would come from. If you were to call that day, even if you called early the next day, we could catch the carrier before they left, and we get that out to you that next day.
So does that come straight to your house then?
Yeah. Now, the carrier will travel up to 1/2 mile off his route and attempt a package. So obviously, if you're here in town, that we can do that, and we'll attempt it. We'll actually come to your door, we'll attempt it, and Obviously, if you're home, we'll leave it with you. If you're not, we'll leave a notice. Yes, ma'am.
The carrier then is part of a contract service.
Yes, carriers are career employees, and there is some cost with giving them the Jansen communities deliveries. I think there's 80 post office boxes here. So that carrier will be compensated for taking in 80 additional deliveries. And that is part of their compensation. They'll have additional, we pay them by miles and by number of deliveries. And so, obviously that's going to offset some of the savings we would have if we were to close Jansen. We would have to pay a carrier a little bit more to carry that portion of the route.
Did you say that someone in Denver would be deciding on a contract service here?
If somebody were interested in a village post office, yeah, Denver would be the ones to negotiate the contract.